Hi, I'm Dominic Patton from Deadline Hollywood, and thank you again for joining us for another installment of Next Generation TV, where we talk to the up-and-comers and stars of tomorrow and movers and shakers of the TV industry this year, especially going into the Emmy season. And we're delighted today to have two of the stars of Sony Crackle's The Startup joining us, Edi Gathegi and Otmara Marrero. In today's world, the idea of getting renewed is like you scored the Super Bowl. You guys are back for a third year. So where, Edi, is The Startup going to take us going into a third season?
Well, there's a lot of new characters that are introduced, and we brought on Mira Sorvino, who does a great job on the show.
Oscar winner.
She's got an Oscar, yes. And we shouldn't forget that Ron Perlman has a Golden Globe, and then Adam Brody and Omar are both future Oscar winners. Yeah, we put that out there.
And you've got a Marvel regular now in Martin.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
You guys are benched up.
It's a good cast.
And you're in Into the Badlands. That's always nice.
I was in that.
Yeah,
I was in that. And this season I think it's the most expansive season that we've had of the three. I think that the scripts came in and they're just exploring new areas, and I think the audience is going to go for a ride with this upcoming season.
Now, Otmara, a lot about this show is kind of exploring topics that were almost ahead of their time and now feel so relevant. Looking at the idea of digital currency, looking at the idea of the way that the world of technology opens itself up to corruption. What kind of response have you received to the show as it's progressed into season 1, then season 2, and now, of course, with your renewal for a third season?
Well, my mom invested in Bitcoin.
Really?
Because of it.
Really?
Yeah.
I got to ask you, how did she do?
She's doing great because this lady, she's such a hustler. She's smart. So she invested, she didn't buy a full Bitcoin because it's like 10 grand right now. It went down. But she invested $3,500 she put in. And every time she was up, she'll take out money. So in a month, she made about like 6 grand just taking out money every time she was up, just flipping. Yeah. So she never had an actual Bitcoin, but she was just using it as a form of like generating interest. And she was inspired by the show. So it was my brother. My brother's like, you know how many people are going to see this show and invest in Bitcoin? And I was like, Alex, no, nobody's going to see it. And a lot of my family members were inspired by the show. And
when did she do that?
She did that last year.
I feel a lot of people are doing it now. Season 1 and season 2, people were just becoming, familiar with.
Well, that's the thing. I think when you guys first started with season 1, Bitcoin. I mean, people knew about it. It was out there. There was, people talking about how you got to have like 18 million computers in your house and a server to do it.
Right.
And then it became almost. I want to use it. It became like retail. Like people learned about it. And when you watch a show like Startup, you understand how you don't have to be on the 74th floor of a skyscraper and a multimillionaire. This is actually something like your mom can slip into.
Absolutely.
But in telling those stories, what have you found that people relate to you when they see the show, when they talk to you about the show? Do you find it something that people understand it, or they're kind of like, so it's a digital currency, but there's this, and how do people relate?
Well, the reality of the whole Bitcoin thing, at least from my estimation, is a very complicated premise, but we try to simplify it on the show. And really, the way that I explain it to people is that we're basically starting up an illegal bank, using drug money. And that's the...
Well, I was going to say corruption is what's drenched around the startup. And that aspect is, do you find it's an unconventional premise with a somewhat conventional thrust insofar as it's a crime drama and stuff is happening? For you guys, how have you seen the show evolve going from season 1 into season 2? And of course, we talked a little bit about season 3.
I think scope and relationships have evolved. Yeah. The first season was almost kind of an actor showcase. There was 4 leads, and we followed each character.
That's very interesting you put it like that.
There were 4 protagonists, so we sort of followed them in their worlds individually, and then we came together. But it was really almost self-contained. And then season 2, we brought in a whole nother bunch of characters, created more storylines, and season 3 is even bigger. Now I think we go to places that are much bigger than what any of us thought we could do on that network.
What do you mean by that, on that network?
Just it seems like a really big show. Because I don't think that there's a lot of money that is spent on the show, quite frankly. But the money that they spend on the show, they make it.
It's smart. I would say it's spent smart.
They stretch it out.
As you said, you've got a lot of leads. You've got Martin, you've got Ed, you've got Ron, you've got you guys. I mean, there's a lot of people on the show and a lot of stories to tell. One of the elements of it that I think is very successful in the startup is the way the stories weave.
Yes.
And the way that every character feels like your characters and all the others feels like they get their time in the sun, so to speak. But being on a streaming service, you know, streaming is that's the new normal now.
Yeah.
But Crackle is one that's really getting itself into the game. For you, what do you find different about being on streaming, say that when you were like on Graceland or something?
Well, Graceland was actually my first TV job, and I had 5 lines. So I couldn't compare because this is my first lead, and it's an incredible opportunity to be working with people like him and Martin Freeman. But I think I find it that people like being able to binge watch. That's like the thing, to have all 10 there and available, you know, and then they can go at their own pace. I think that's the difference between streaming. It's just having it there and going at the pace that you want and being able to rewatch it and go back, go forward. I mean,
And on a place like Crackle, there's a lot of freedom.
Sony Crackle.
Sony
Sony
Crackle.
Crackle.
That's right. There's a lot of freedom. You know, they're not really breathing down our necks with a ton of network notes. The
definitely a lot of
creative
creative
powers
freedom.
that be, we really get to be creative.
But
There's
for
a sense
you,
of
I
freedom.
mean, you've done a lot of, let's call it conventional television,
Right.
and stuff. Do you find as an actor, does it allow you to flex new muscles? Does it allow you to do stuff you just didn't have a chance to do before?
feels almost cinematic in a way, like you're kind of on a movie set where.
So it's like a 10-hour movie.
Yeah, and you get takes. You get take after take after take. I feel like a lot of times in network television, like they're really, you know, paying attention to the money that's being spent time-wise. You know, a couple of takes, we got to move on to the next setup, and they're going to tons of different locations. We'll lock down a location and shoot there for 4 days, so we have nothing but time in that location, and we get to get at bats. You know.
Nick told me what went down with the Golden Boy.
What are you doing here?
I need a favor. All of a sudden, these folks, they're interested in our real estate, folks with money. Business been cut in half the last month. We've been hearing these jits, a couple hoods over, they've been pulling extra money down on the dark web on that Tor shit. You know about that shit?
Of course I know about Tor.
That's right. What you know about that shit? Can we trust that to move product?
It depends. You know the government started it?
Where?
Word. Feds funded that shit. They've been on it since the jump.
As the startup evolves now, goes into a 3rd season, for you guys as actors, how has it changed for you? I mean, you talked about this being your first lead.
I mean, for me, I think it's changed the trajectory of my artistry because coming from Miami and just doing national commercials and day player stuff to going on a set where I'm there from start to finish, from the first day they start working till the last day that they wrap, and working with people that have been in the business for over a decade I've learned so much, and I think I tell everyone that the best acting school is being on set. Absolutely. The things that you learn on set, you can't possibly learn in a classroom.
Well, I mean, we're just, as people, we're just always evolving, hopefully, we're moving forward. And I'm just taking the experiences of every day. I'm a producer this season, so that's changed.
That's great.
You know? So I have a little bit more of a hands-on.
Do you find that hard? Because
No, I find
now you've got 2 roles.
I find it exciting.
Oh, how
Yeah,
so?
for me, I joke with my friends, if you give me too much time to complete a task, it'll just never get completed. But if I'm thrown in the furnace, I get creative.
That's
and
a Pisces thing.
I have to make things happen. So I like more jobs. More jobs makes me a better artist. So I'm looking
So
for...
what else are you thinking of doing? You going to write?
I'm writing some. I don't know for the show, but we'll see.
One of the elements of the startup, and this is my last question, but I think in ways one was pertinent, it offers there's a lot of darkness to it. There's a lot of cynicism to it.
Yeah.
But I find when I watched it, at least season 2, I want to getting into that because I think you were right. Season 1 there was a lot of setup, right? Season 2, it felt like things got plugged in and they happened. But there feels like there's an optimism that people can kind of persevere. And from your point of view, as you look on the other side of it, what reaction have you had from people about the series and how the elements of it that attract them?
I think what people are attracted to, first and foremost, is the authenticity of human behavior.
Yeah.
You know, they think that the performances are really dialed in a way that they can relate to because it speaks to whatever they're going through. And humanity is messy. So I think what's interesting what you said about the optimism. I think the optimism is the fact that we endure as humans and we keep going forward. Persevere. And it's like I think one of the themes of this upcoming season is loyalty and responsibility, and the loyalty and the love that we have for each other is something that I think people are recognizing in themselves and reflecting.
They see the underdog win a lot in this show. Even though they see us fall a lot, then they see us win, and I think that gives people hope.
We're constantly failing. We're constantly
failing, but we pick ourselves back up. And I think as a first-generation Latin woman, especially a woman in tech, that's big.
Well, there's a lot of barriers broken in the show just by the people who show up.
Yeah. Women in tech make a 20%. They graduate a 60%, and then in the field there's a 20%. So I think to see a character like this and not portrayed like every other character when they're smart, they're not, you know, like they always like dumb them down. So either they're pretty and they're dumb, or they're smart and they're ugly. And it's like this character's just like, there's so much that makes up of her. And I think that seeing her win.
She's cool.
She's cool. Yeah, she's cool, and she's still smart, and she's still, you know, there's so much drive, and I think that that's big. And I get a lot of girls that DM me and they're like, wow, you know, like I'm so inspired by Izzy. And she's so crazy and kooky sometimes, but they're still inspired by her drive, and they're still inspired that she's the underdog, and she's there, and she's in that world.
I have to ask, as we wrap up, so is your mom putting more money into more Bitcoin?
I gotta ask her, but I think it went down a lot, and she got really mad, and she might have took her 3,500. But I gotta ask her.
I want to say something about Ben Ketai, because the showrunner, the creator of the show, what he did very well this season and the season before, but especially this season, is he's put his finger on the pulse of what's going on culturally, in a not obvious way. But what's explored in this season is really topical. It's what's happening in this world. It's reflected, and the introduction of Mira Sorvino's character and what she's representing in Hollywood right now. There are those kinds of themes that are going on in the next season.
The irony in her character and what she's representing in real life is...
Well, that is a little bit about the start of it. It does feel like there's, I don't want to say that it sometimes goes from drama to documentary, but it certainly feels like it's, as you said, it's plugged in and on the pulse.
Yeah, it's 2018. It's digital currency, cryptocurrency, it's, you know, it's the Me Too, it's everything.
Gender, race.
It's
gender,
class.
race, 100% class.
It's America.
It's middle America
exactly.
meets corporate America, meets tech,
American
meets
dream.
Crime,
Well, thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Dominic.
Really
Thank you
appreciate
for having us.
And thank you for joining us today. I'm Dominic Patton from Deadline Hollywood. As if you didn't know that, we'll be back for another installment of Next Generation TV in the next week or so, and many more as we go into Emmy season. Take care.